Today, we journey into the mysterious and the controversial world of cloud seeding and chemtrails, an event shrouded in secrecy, scientific prowess, and whispers of conspiracy. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew about the skies above.
At 5, Tennessee lawmakers are trying to ban the intentional release of chemicals into the air based on a conspiracy theory.
A clear sky marred by long trails of white cloud stretching across the horizon. To some, these trails were harmless, the result of ordinary aircraft emissions. But to others, they were evidence of a covert operation, an attempt to manipulate the environment.
They do tend to put them in front of the sun, which makes sense if they're trying to block sunlight.
What would you say is your strongest piece of evidence proving that chemtrails are real?
I think, I honestly, it might seem a little bit crazy that I literally have almost 400 videos.
That are creating super clunky corporate software. What you didn't realize is that Bill Gates doesn't think of himself that way. Bill Gates doesn't think of himself as some guy who got super rich making bad software. Bill Gates thinks of himself as God.
One theory stands out the most is that chemtrails may be part of a biological or chemical warfare program. Historical precedents, such as the U.S. military's Project SHAD, Shipboard Hazard and Defense, which involved the release of biological and chemical agents to test defense systems, the plausibility of secret experiments.
In control of the solar system. And that's why Bill Gates is now backing something called sun-dimming technology that would reflect sunlight out of the Earth's atmosphere, causing global cooling. Ooh, that's not fraught with risks. You thought gain-of-function research on pathogens was dangerous. Try that. But that hasn't stopped Harvard University. Its scientists are testing that technology by spewing calcium carbonate dust into the atmosphere.
However, no concrete evidence has surfaced to link modern contrails to such activities. Some theorists suggest that chemtrails are used for population control, dispersing substances that could influence public health, behavior, or fertility. This theory often intersects with broader narratives of government overreach and surveillance.
Theories that HAARP can be used to manipulate the weather. Is this possible?
Yeah, HAARP is, high altitude
Radio pension.
I always forget the acronym.
Yeah.
There are people who are sure that the government is stockpiling aliens and controlling everything about anything we would ever think about.
It begins in the mid-20th century in the laboratories of scientists who dared to dream of controlling the weather.
The chemtrail conspiracy theory claims commercial aircraft release poison into the atmosphere intentionally. Believers say the white lines you may see coming from planes in the sky are not vapor clouds known as condensation or contrails, but instead chemicals being sprayed from jets for a variety of reasons. A 2018 study suggests contrails play a big role in global warming that has been underestimated.
A process of introducing substances like silver iodide into clouds to induce precipitation. The goal was noble: to alleviate droughts, prevent hailstorms, and even enhance snowfall.
Carrying out cloud seeding programs, or how people have seen an unbelievable explosion of chemtrails, and then we're just conspiracy theorists. Well, we were all proven correct once again. The city of Dubai in the United Arab Emirates is flooding, more than 6 inches of rain falling in a matter of hours. And according to Bloomberg, this is thanks to their cloud seeding program. So look at this. This is unbelievable. They are not used to this. 6 inches in just a few short hours?
They're used to 3 inches per year. So in one 24-hour period, actually I think it was 48, they got 2 years worth of rain.
All right, look at that mall. We were just there.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Look at that.
And, you know, they don't have the infrastructure for drainage. So that's why their highways are stuck. They're flooding all over the place. It's wild there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I mean, I lived in Arizona when I was like 20, and we had a rainstorm one day, and it's like one night, and because it's not built for it, it just flooded everything. It was crazy. I couldn't imagine getting that much rain. Like that's insane.
Imagine the power to command the weather, to bring rain to parched lands and snow to barren peaks. It all sounds like science fiction. But with great power comes great responsibility. And as the practice of cloud seeding spread, so did the shadows of doubt in those who like to play God. In the 1990s marked technological leaps. It was then that a new term emerged: chemtrails. Unlike the familiar contrails left by airplanes, chemtrails were believed to be more sinister.
The Tennessee bill claims the government may conduct geoengineering experiments by intentionally releasing chemicals in the atmosphere. If the legislation ends up becoming law, it would prohibit the release of the chemicals, which lawmakers claim affect the temperature, weather, and the intensity of the sunlight. If Tennessee's governor signs the bill, it would go into effect July 1st.
Control the climate or something even darker. Conversations about chemtrails lead to questions about who is behind these operations. Some believe it is a clandestine government project aimed at geoengineering, a method to combat climate change by reflecting sunlight away from the Earth.
Gates is backing the first high-altitude experiment of one radical climate change solution, creating a massive chemical cloud that could cool the Earth. It's called solar geoengineering.
Others point to more nefarious motives: population control, mind manipulation, and even biological warfare. Suspense builds as we uncover fragments of evidence pieced together from declassified documents, whistleblower testimonies, and scientists. We are mere spectators in this unfolding drama. We are part of a global audience that have many questions.
There's one right there. You see how wide it is? It's getting wider and wider. There's one above it, it's even wider, and it looks like something else actually flew through it and made a line through it, okay? But if you look directly over my head, you can see that line going across there. It goes that way, and there's a line going across that way. These are contrails too. They've made this giant cirrus cloud, basically. Like you can see a couple contrails that going that way too. And there's a contrail in that big contrail right there. You can see one right there, and you can see that one going off. Looks like a rocket or something came up through here. It kind of trails through it. So these jets have made this big cloud right here that stretches from that horizon from LA as far as you can see that way, going east, like toward New York and the rest of the cities out there. So yeah, those are chemtrails, but they're the chemicals coming out of the exhaust on the jet, which is probably mostly vapor, but there's some other things mixed in whenever you burn flue.
I'm here to give you testimony that chemtrails are indeed real. They're spraying almost every day. I watch the clouds and watch the spraying program going on. I want to tell you that we're in very great danger from the pollution that's coming down over us. And we've been led astray by the military-industrial complex, and they're responsible for the cloud's creation and weather manipulation programs. They're dark operations. That's why they're not out in the media.
There's a huge amount of aluminum being found because these sprays have aluminum, strontium, barium, manganese, and there's a lot of argument that aluminum is very common to be found, but aluminum is only common in a bonded form. It's not common in a free form, and we're finding high rates of free aluminum in the soil, which is not natural.
Despite the lack of empirical evidence supporting these claims, they persist in the public imagination, opinion, and great mistrust, often reflecting deep-seated anxieties about governmental power and autonomy. While the scientific community refutes the existence of chemtrail spraying programs, the possibility of government involvement remains a point of contention for many theorists and vast members of the public. News outlets have approached the chemtrail phenomenon with varying degrees of skepticism and credulity. While some investigative reports have sought to debunk the theory through interviews with experts and analysis of scientific data, others have given voice to chemtrail proponents, framing the issue as an unresolved mystery.
Is predicted to take. These artificial clouds will block the sun from evaporating more water to feed the hurricane.
From 7 News here, and today I'm going to have a look at a topic on many people's minds recently: cloud seeding. Well, put simply, it's the process of putting something up into the atmosphere to help get some more rain, or seeding the clouds. Rain forms by water vapor in the atmosphere condensing around small particles, usually dust, salt, or other aerosols called condensation nuclei. The theory is if we put more of these particles in the air, we might be able to get some more rain. In reality, you need a lot of conditions to be just perfect for this to happen, and if we put too many of those particles into the air, well, the water vapor is spread too thin and we won't get any droplets big enough to fall as rain. Now, the most common particle used is silver iodide, which has a similar structure to ice crystals and can be used in levels well below anything that causes any environmental concerns. It has a long and tumultuous history in Australia. Eccentric meteorologist Clement Wragg tried to use what were called Steiger vortex guns in Charleville, Queensland back in 1902, but with little effect. More recently, trials were conducted in southern states after World War II. While a few failed, the Snowy Mountains saw a statistically significant increase in rainfall, and a cloud seeding program was launched by Snowy Hydro in 2004. It saw a measured increase in precipitation of around 14%, mostly falling as snow. Now here, the silver iodide was released from propane burners situated in the ski fields. Tasmanian trials recorded increases up to 30% from particles released by plane.
This divergent coverage contributes to the ongoing debate and the difficulty in reaching a consensus. While the scientific community refutes the existence of chemtrail spraying programs, the possibility of government involvement remains a point of contention for many theorists. The health concerns raised by chemtrail theorists have prompted investigations by several environmental and health agencies. Studies have consistently found that the composition of contrails is primarily ice crystals, with no evidence of harmful chemicals in concentrations, they say.
Now, this is only a small increase to rain that would have likely already been falling, so cloud seeding like this is not likely to create flooding rains out of nothing. Another common theory is that the white clouds we see behind passenger jets could also be behind some kind of secret business, but we can easily explain that with our understanding of physics and the atmosphere too. Put simply, in the right conditions, hot air from the plane's engine exhaust will cool and create ice crystals. At scale, these contrails, as they're called, are having a small impact on the rates of climate change, but I don't have any reason to think there's anything more sinister going on here. At certain times of the year and regularly on sunny days, we see these narrow lines appearing on the weather radar. Now, the only thing I can confidently tell you is that it's not weather related, and it's consistent with something potentially being released high in the atmosphere, then spreading out on the prevailing winds. The most likely theory is that this is chaff used by the Defence Force as a masking agent or countermeasure to hide jets during their exercises. If that's the case, this chaff is most likely made out of small strips of aluminium which act to block the radar images and should also be on a small enough scale to not have a detrimental environmental impact. After tracking these radar signals for years, I have a good feel for what is rain and what is not. I will add the other main way that humans are geoengineering is climate change. Yes, it's serious, but in terms of scale, it's taking all of the pollution that humans have put into the atmosphere over 150 years, not just a few particles from a burner or a plane. So we're probably better off focusing our attention on what...
However, contrails are a well-documented atmospheric phenomenon, and they form when hot, humid air from aircraft engines mixes with the colder, low-pressure atmosphere at high altitudes. This mixing causes the water vapor in the exhaust to condense into ice crystals, creating visible trails. Contrails can vary in appearance and duration based on atmospheric conditions such as humidity, temperature, and wind patterns. Under certain conditions, contrails can persist and spread, creating cloud-like formations. This natural process has been extensively studied and is well understood by atmospheric scientists. Similarly, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, has addressed the issue, stating that contrails and aviation-induced cirrus clouds may contribute to climate change by trapping heat, but are not evidence of chemical spraying.
And they clearly have never worked for the government because the level of incompetence of the government and inefficiency knows no bounds.
But
for starters,
it's true that you could manipulate the weather like they did during the Olympics in China. Like, it's not that you can't manipulate the weather, it's that whether you would really have any serious control.
Yeah, a lot of the weather, weather happens in many places, so it comes about from the heat balance, from the energy coming from the sun, what it reflects off of, what it gets absorbed by, what the upcurrents do, what the downdrafts do, what the rotation of the earth is doing. All of this factors in. And so I have not been convinced by any of the reports to suggest that experiments in the upper atmosphere, physics experiments, are having any effect on our weather.
Proponents of the chemtrail theory often claim that contrails contain harmful chemicals such as aluminum, barium, and strontium. However, numerous studies and analyses of contrail samples have shown no evidence of these chemicals at levels higher than what is naturally present in the environment. Chemtrail theorists argue that persistent contrails are a sign of chemical spraying. The persistence of contrails depends on atmospheric conditions. High humidity and low temperatures at high altitudes can cause contrails to linger and spread, creating the appearance of large cloud formations. Some proponents link chemtrails to an increase in respiratory illnesses. While air pollution can indeed impact respiratory health, scientists claim no evidence to connect contrails to such health issues. Instead, factors such as industrial pollution, vehicle emissions, and natural allergens are claimed more likely contributors. The chemtrail conspiracy theory, despite its persistence, lacks credible evidence that some are possibly not willing to be made public.
I saw some people online like, come on, you right-wing nut jobs out there. This is not cloud seeding. This is clearly climate change. And then the UAE fires back and actually says, no, we were cloud seeding. In fact, we confirmed at the Gulf States National Center of Meteorology dispatched seeding planes from Al Ain Airport Monday and Tuesday to take advantage of the cloud formations. The seeding planes have flown 7 missions over the past 2 days. So yes, this was directly responsible for all of this. Of course, this isn't the first time, by the way, and it won't be the last. Back in 2016, one day before the worst floods in Tasmania's in 40-year history in Tasmania and Australia, a cloud seeding plane was launched and brought devastating rain. Look.
Contrails, not the chemical, the contrails occur because of cold air, minus 30. It takes high altitude, around 30,000 feet plus. There's carbon dioxide and water vapor in that exhaust. That turns to ice crystals, and that's what you see, the white stream behind it. Those white crystals of ice warm up, dissolve, and the smoke goes away. And it never lasts more than a minute. What we're seeing now, and I first could not believe it, and I started looking at the skies, and these are not normal. They're not natural.
40% of respondents back in 2011 in an international survey said they believed the existence of a secret large-scale atmospheric spraying program to be true or partly true. 17%, that is literally millions and millions of Americans, believing that it exists.
Mark Twain was famous for saying, "Everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it." Well, obviously, to control the weather, you'd have to have superpowers. A simple thunderstorm has more energy than a hydrogen bomb. So to control the weather is very difficult. The CIA tried it during the Vietnam War. They tried to seed the clouds with crystals, iodide crystals, that form nuclei to form rain clouds to stimulate a monsoon season. The CIA did not like the Viet Cong, and the Viet Cong would operate in the jungles. So why not stop them in their tracks by seeding the clouds and creating an artificial monsoon? Well, that was a failure. And it's very humbling knowing that many countries have tried to control the weather. None of these harebrained schemes have actually worked. However, now that we have global warming, some people are saying that we really should think about altering the weather itself. There is a doomsday plan proposed by a Nobel laureate, and that is that if the greenhouse effect spirals out of control, we should put rockets to shoot pollutants into the atmosphere to reflect sunlight back into outer space. That would be a doomsday mechanism to control the weather. But weather control is really for a type 1 civilization. Minimum 100 years.
Awful lot of well-known people who appear to have credentials saying that we are in a climate emergency, which we are, aren't we?
No, we are not in a climate emergency. These people want us to think that the world began in 1850 when we started using fossil fuels. But for 150 years before that, it was also warming. There is zero evidence that the CO2 increase in the atmosphere is the cause of rising temperature. None whatsoever, because it was already rising. And as I was about to say, during the first 150 years of rising out of 1700, there was a period of over 40 years where the temperature increased more and faster than it has done since 1850, especially since 1950, when we were actually starting to put a significant amount more CO2 in the atmosphere post-war. And today, it's exponential. There's a wonderful graph, it's in my book, which shows the temperature record in central England from 1660 or so, when the first thermometer existed. So this is the longest thermometer record of temperature in the world, because they were invented in England. And so that shows a very steady, continuous rise in temperature of a little over 1 degree Celsius in 320 years. It's not a big deal. They keep saying it's never gone this fast, it's never risen this fast. That is a lie. It has risen this fast many times in the even recent past, especially from about 1690 to about 1730. It rose faster and longer than it ever has done since. It's all in the record.
The aftermath of Hurricane Helene, a new threat is emerging. The absence of running water, electricity, or even cell service has seen misinformation and conspiracy theories surrounding the event take hold. Disaster agency FEMA has been the target of online rumours, including that it is choosing not to help people or that its resources have been diverted to help illegal immigrants. Those claims are false and have been amplified by the likes of Elon Musk and Donald Trump and have led to threats against workers and volunteers. FEMA has created a fact-check page that debunks online misinformation, but it is constantly playing catch-up with the latest rumours. The cause of the hurricane has also led to a conspiracy theory centering around the idea that it was man-made.
Cloudseeding, they called it. Whatever side you choose, it cannot be ignored that weather control is real.